What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Godspeed ZRZ. Now today I'm bringing you a video that a lot of you have asked for. Since the brand new Ford Tremor F-250 has came out, I've had so many questions about it versus the Ram 2500 Power Wagon. So today we're going to dive in, compare the two, and talk about why the F-250 has been dominating the market since it's came out. Since the release of the all-new Tremor F-250, there's been a lot of talk about how capable this truck is, and because of that, there's been a controversy over which one's better between the Ram Power Wagon or the F-250 Tremor. Now, there's obviously some pretty distinct differences, and in my opinion, I believe they're going after two similar markets, but different markets nonetheless. So with the 2500 Power Wagon, of course, we've got one of the most off-road capable pickup trucks ever made. We've got front and rear lockers, we've got sway bar disconnect, we've got manual selection for our transfer case, and we've even got a 12,000 pound Warren winch already installed. Whenever you're looking at the exterior, there's very obvious key features that go into the appearance to let you know what it is. Of course, it comes with the 33-inch Goodyear Duratrax, and we all know how that tire is. It's a little noisy after it gets worn, but they do grip up pretty well. To go beyond that, the new Power Wagons come with the 6.4 liter Hemi as well as the 8-speed automatic transmission. Now we've got solid axles front and rear, but one of the key differences in the Power Wagon is coil spring suspension all the way around. Now, to some people that may not sound like too big of a deal, but in comparison to most of the trucks out there on the market, especially once you get into the heavy duty trucks, that's really rare to find. And even beyond that, with the coil spring suspension, it also has a 5-link suspension in the rear. Now, the Power Wagon, just like the Tremor, comes with 2-inch lift, which is more of a leveling kit. Now, for the Power Wagon, it comes with Bilstein shocks all the way around. You'll notice the blue and yellow appearance of the Bilsteins, and they do really well. In terms of fuel mileage, the Power Wagon is pretty rough. So with the 6.4 liter Hemi, it has about 410 horsepower and about 430 foot-pounds of torque, which is pretty impressive output for this size of a truck, but it's certainly no diesel. Notice in the Power Wagon, there is no option to get the diesel. Now that's where the Ford F-250 Tremor has really taken it a step above. So with the F-250 Tremor, of course, it's raised 2 inches as well, but it also comes with the 35-inch tires. And one of the best features that the F-250 Tremor has to offer is the diesel option. So you can get the 6.7 liter turbo diesel in the Tremor, which I believe has pulled quite a few customers off the Power Wagon to the Tremor. Both the Power Wagon, there's one right there. Both the Power Wagon and the Tremor are very similar price points in terms of where you start. Now, once you do opt in to get the diesel for the Tremor package, I believe the Tremor goes beyond the price that the Power Wagons could really reach. And let's be honest, with all the new vehicles, you're getting amazing features, creature comforts that we're all used to, and you don't really have to make any certain sacrifices to get these off-road oriented vehicles anymore. You're still getting all the same features that you'd get in a nice regular pickup truck, and they go above and beyond to give you more off-road capabilities included with that. Now with the F-250, you also have the option to get the 7.3 liter gasoline motor, which is a pretty stout motor itself. I believe it's rated at about 430 horsepower and about 475 foot-pounds of torque. So that is an improvement over the Power Wagon 6.4, but you also get that paired with a 10-speed automatic transmission. So the 10-speed was actually designed with Ford and Chevy, and they actually use similar variations of that in many of their vehicles across the line. And if you've had any time behind the wheel with a heavy-duty Ford with the 10-speed automatic, you'll certainly find out it has its own limitations. It seems to be searching for gears more than what you would see in the 8-speed automatic transmission in the 2500, and even aside from that, sometimes when it finds its gear, it throws it in just a little too hard. But that is a small inconvenience of the truck, and I'm sure that's something that with just a little bit of different software tuning could be tuned out. In terms of off-the-line aggression and just overall appearance, out of the box, the Power Wagon is a little bit more of a aggressive appearance, but the Tremor is a little bit more aggressive in the sense that it comes factory with the 35s, which is pretty impressive. The ride height is pretty similar, but the Tremor actually sits a little bit higher from the factory just because of those 35s. Now, in terms of the customer base that these vehicles really go after, it's certainly a tight niche market. So not only do you have to get someone that's interested in driving a heavy duty big truck around, especially in a lot of the tighter spaces and a lot of the tighter roads that we have now, you're also looking for the customer base that is willing to take this $60,000, $70,000 ride off-road. That's not a big demographic. I bought my Power Wagon in 2018, and with only having it for a day or so, I actually took it riding, and whenever I was on the trails, people would just stop and stare because they hadn't seen a vehicle that big or that expensive being abused the way I like to ride mine. And with that being said, it brings something to my attention. A lot of the features that the F-250 Tremor has, especially the features that it has over the Power Wagon, are a lot of the features that the majority of customers are really going to use. So one of the biggest drawbacks of the Power Wagon not having the diesel motor is the towing capabilities and the fuel economy. The towing capabilities are really hindered with the gas motor, especially this one has the American axles front and rear, and it's also got the 410 gears. Now the 410 gears are great, but the fuel mileage while towing really suffers. My entire length of ownership with the Power Wagon, I was never able to go above 10 miles a gallon, which is pretty rough. Whenever you're talking about the Tremor, the fuel economy is actually quite a bit better, whether you're getting the 7.3 liter gasoline motor or if you're going to get the 6.7 liter turbo diesel. So aside from fuel mileage, the towing capabilities are also hindered with the gas motor simply because of the power and the way the suspension is set up. The engineers obviously keep in mind where this is an off-road oriented vehicle, the suspension needs to handle that rough terrain. Whenever you tune suspension for a rougher terrain and better articulation, you inevitably lose a certain amount of your towing capabilities. So with the F-250 Tremor, I believe they're rated somewhere around 15,000 pounds of towing capabilities, whereas the Power Wagon is only rated for around 10,600 pounds. That's a really big difference. That's the difference between being able to pull around an actual heavy duty piece of equipment and hauling around a lawnmower with a side-by-side and a heavy trailer. I mean, the differences between the two are mostly noted whenever you're looking at what the customer base is looking for. The customer base, more times than not, is really and truly just wanting to be able to get a truck that looks like they can go off-road, more of a weekend warrior style, but they can still handle all of their normal truck work with their actual toy. So the Ford Tremor is actually able to do that quite a bit better than the Power Wagon is. Now on the opposite side, the Power Wagon is quite a bit more of a beast off-road. The Tremor does not come with the option of a front locker, only the rear locker, and it also misses out on the electronic sway bar disconnect, so there's no option for that. The F-250 Tremor also has the standard leaf spring suspension in the rear. Now we all know leaf springs are a little bit rougher of a ride, and they also help your towing capabilities a little bit, and that's noted in their tow ratings. With having more than a fair chance to abuse my Power Wagon throughout the length of ownership, I know that the Tremor probably couldn't hold up to what the Power Wagon can do off-road. This is basically a Rubicon on steroids with a long bed behind it. Now talking about long beds, the Tremor is actually overall a little bit longer than the Power Wagon is, even with the standard bed compared between the two. Keeping that in mind, with the trails we have here up in the mountains, the Power Wagon was already big enough. So any extra space added beyond this is almost going to be a little bit of an inconvenience once you do get out on the trails. Now, in terms of the market and the way the Tremor has been able to dominate so far, it's came into the same category as the Power Wagon, but it actually gives you more capability than what the Power Wagon has for day-to-day use. A lot of the people that are able to buy these $60,000 to $70,000 vehicles and do plan to use them, they want the full capabilities of the truck, of a truck in general. And the Tremor definitely delivers on that front. Whereas the Power Wagon may have quite a bit more off-road capability, but it suffers in the actual capabilities of a normal truck. And you've got to think, this isn't the difference between a Jeep Wrangler and another truck. This is truck to truck. So in the same market space, the Tremor has really been able to give more of your weekend warrior-minded people and your working class a lot more of a justification to be able to buy one of these trucks, because you're not going to be limited to what you can haul with the Tremor. And with the Power Wagon, you have to keep that in the back of your mind. Some things you hook up, you may not be rated for. So in terms of comparison to the market, both are in the same market space and going after the same demographic and customer base. But it's almost like, and this is just my opinion, it's almost like when Ford had the Raptor and Ram came out with the Rebel. They're not the same. So the Power Wagon being the Raptor at the same time as the Tremor being the Rebel, and at the same time as the Tremor being the Rebel for this comparison, it seems like we've got one that's over the top, hardcore, and definitely off-road oriented, versus just an F-250 they've slapped a sticker on, a leveling kit, and put 35s on with a rear locker. Now, I may be wrong. With that being said, and them being in a comparable price range, it seems like not only are they going to get the Ford loyalists that want something a little bit more off-road oriented, they're also going to get the customer base of wanting an off-road truck, an off-road oriented truck that they can also do their work with. So they're actually an option for a broader range of customers. So it's almost like Rebel sales compared to Raptor sales. Sure, the Raptors are awesome, they look cool, but Raptors sell a lot less than the Rebels sell. It's a common fact. And I feel like that's what we're running into with the Tremor. Ford noticed that the Power Wagon is holding somewhat of a market, more of a specialized market, and they've kind of went after that market as well. And they've done really, really well with that. The same way that Ram in the past took note of the Raptor's performance in the market and came out with something that wasn't necessarily comparable, but could give you the same kind of feel, appearance, and they could build a certain loyalty around with the Rebel. And then obviously after testing the market and seeing that Ram definitely has a customer base that wants something cool, that looks crazy, and that has very similar off-road capabilities, they built the TRX, and it did phenomenally well. So maybe this is Ford's attempt to see how a full-size 2500 truck is going to do in the market whenever it's completely off-road oriented, and see if there's a space for a Raptor 2500. And this is all conspiracy up to this point, but if you look in the past and what the automotive manufacturers have done and the way they've tested the market, this could be a clear indication that we could see a F-250 Raptor in the near future. But getting back to the direct comparison, there are a bunch of similarities, but there are also a bunch of big differences. I think the Ford Tremor really accommodates to just a wider customer base, and that's why they've been able to dominate the market. Even your papal that's just looking for a good truck and that likes the look of a filled up fender well, he would go for a Tremor. Whereas the old papal would have to be a little bit more interested in off-roading to even consider the Power Wagon. It's a similar market space, but it is a different customer base whenever you get down to the core of who's going to be buying these vehicles. But toe-to-toe, in an off-road situation, the Power Wagon is going to win every time in my book. But for the on-road situation, for towing, for your day-to-day use, the Tremor may be a little bit more practical. So that's it for today, guys. As always, if you have any comments, any suggestions, or you want to see something cool, let me know. Don't forget to like, subscribe. But until next time, just take it easy.